of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christine, is there an agenda?
Yeah, I didn't make an extra copy, but you can have mine if you want.
No, that's all right.
We do have a quorum. What is your pleasure, Suzanne and Madeline, with the consent agenda?
I move that we accept it as presented.
I want to make a note that the minutes that we were sent were incorrect in that the original ones said that we had a meeting at the fire station, and that has been corrected for the record.
Okay, all in favor? The next upcoming select board meeting is August 3rd at 5:30 at the West Bath Town Hall. Select board comment announcements.
I have none.
I just want to say for clarification, the evaluations that went out, that is not a tax bill. That is an evaluation of property. We don't know what the mill rate is at this time, and there's been some misunderstanding with that. Some people thought it was their actual tax bill. It is not, so just for clarity, tax bills can't be sent out if we have a mill rate, so that's what we are with that. Anything, Suzanne?
Just for clarification, with that we, at the last comp plan meeting, there was an uncertain decision as to where it goes after it's presented, and I think it's my understanding that the select board reviews it before it's sent to the state for review, and I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
I think it's dependent on the town and the select board's choice.
We select.
There's no
committees.
law that says that the select board must, so.
David?
As far as I know, there was a committee appointed by the select board to do this revision overhaul of the comp plan, which we're in the process of, and hopefully finishing in a few weeks. At that time, we intend to send it to the state of Maine for their approval, which take a month or two, and then it gets back to the town to review their changes, or any proposed changes they have, and then you have public hearings. As far as I'm concerned, we were tasked with doing this, and that's what we did. I believe the select board has a chance to review and see it as it's gone along, so it's right there in the open. If they have any questions, let us know now before we send it on.
So it's not in its final format, for starters, and
Well, no,
it
it's
says
not.
sections, and any committee or task force that we put together is to make recommendations to us, not for us. And I just want to clarify that if something's going to go to the state, I certainly want to see it before it goes to the state. That's really our obligation to our community, to make sure we're representing them.
I think that's a discussion for the board.
But it even says it in the employee handbook and committee handbook that we just voted on, and it's to make recommendations, not to make decisions.
Still think it's a discussion for the board.
So we'll table this and
I can put it on the next meeting agenda if you think that
thank
makes
you.
sense.
Yes. And in the meantime, do we want to make sure we all get a copy to look at it so we don't hold this up? I mean, if we have any.
Yeah, I email everything to the full board, but if you want me to print out copies, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to hold this up, so I think we should be responsible to read it and see if we have any concerns, if this is something we're going to make them do. Because they've worked so hard and long on it, we don't want to make it a huge process.
I've read what's been produced so far. I have some proofreading comments, but
Okay.
I'm quite pleased with the way that it's looking up, actually. I think it's well on the way to simplifying what we had to work with before. It's well written, clear, and understandable.
I just think, it's up to us to approve it before it goes anywhere.
Right, we'll have it on next select board's agenda. Any other select board comments, announcements? Okay, business item number 1. Elliot Rosen, Chair, will provide a final report on task force activities. Recommendations will be made to the select board for future actions, including future franchise negotiations.
I brought a copy
Thank you.
for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm highly scripted to keep myself on task. Otherwise, I get interested in whatever's happening in my head and won't be here too long.
I totally understand.
All right, so I want to begin by thanking the members of the task force for their patience and stick-to-itiveness during this long, drawn-out activity. This has been going on a long time. And the task force members are Michelle Rusk, Jordy St. John, Robert Webbs, and Steve Winter. The staff from town has been quite helpful to move things along. And really, huge thanks to John Bean and Suzanne for their intense legwork to prove and convince Comcast that the part of the town that had been left off of the original franchise agreement actually is eligible. And double thanks to Suzanne, who was absolutely relentless in representing us to Comcast and Central Maine Power to get them to fulfill their obligations. To remind everyone, in late 2020, the Select Board established a task force to look into West Bath broadband coverage and services. We met by Zoom for the first time in February 2021. After that, we had semi-regular meetings about once per quarter while we gathered data, spoke to Consolidated about their plans, learned of Fidium, which is Consolidated's fiber optic subsidiary, attended meetings sponsored by the state, and had discussions with a group in North Bath who had been left off of Bath's cable franchise and Bath's central district fiber build-out. We had many Zoom and by phone conversations with the Fidium representative and many conversations with Comcast. As you know, we conducted 2 informal surveys by email to gather information we could across the town about what internet service provider they used, what speeds were they getting, and their overall satisfaction. We also tried to ascertain if there were areas other than Mountain Road and Harbor Ridge that were not served by Comcast. The quick answer to that question is that we did not learn of any other parts of West Bath that had been left off of the original franchise agreement. We're not 100% on that, but we haven't heard of any. For the 2 informal surveys, we found that respondents of the surveys fell into 3 bins. Bin 1 were Consolidated DSL customers who were very dissatisfied in every way. Comcast customers who were mostly satisfied with speed and reliability. And in Bin 3, Comcast customers who had relatively low speed and poor customer service experiences. Through the energetic efforts of Suzanne, who traded off being bad cop to my good cop, Comcast finally agreed that our neighborhood was more or less eligible for services under the existing franchise agreement. It took another year for Central Maine Power to do their part, which was moving wires onto 2 new poles. The installation was completed early this summer. So where are we now? We investigated and had repeated conversations with Fidium to see if we could be bundled with some other nearby towns to apply for grant money from the state that would pay for the vast majority of the new build-out of high-speed, more affordable fiber optic internet service for all businesses and residents in West Bath. And just as an aside, it's not written here, Fidium has been gathering towns together to apply for grant money. We had conversations with them. We were not attractive enough for them at that time, in part because we have Comcast. Because most of the town is served by Comcast and the server level is good enough, according to the state's guidelines, which we'll note for the committee have been in constant motion the entire time, and we're not rural enough. It is unclear how strong our grant proposal profile will be. Additionally, to be competitive, the town would need to promise to contribute about $150,000 to a build-out, although that cost could be spread out over 2 or possibly 3 years. It's not written here, but the cost of the build-out to Fidium and using grant money, the total cost is about $3.5 million. The town would be asked to put up about $150K. It is unclear how much enthusiasm there is in the town to pursue the fiber optic option at this time. The town, however, should be aware that the upcoming grant round is likely to be the best chance to have a high-speed competitor to Comcast, with nearly all of the build-out funded by grant sources. It is also understanding that most, if not all, neighboring communities, including Hartsville, Bath, Rouseck, Georgetown, and Woolwich, already have or are actively pursuing Fidium or other fiber optic service, leaving West Bath as an outlier. It is the view of the committee that missing out fiber at this time might be a mistake. There were good reasons that Consolidated is going all in on fiber with Fidium. There is much good to say about fiber. It is extremely fast and extremely reliable for both providers and customers, needing little maintenance on the poles, and has self-healing in the sense that if your service goes out, you open the app on your phone, you push the fix-it button, and 5 minutes later, magically, it's fixed, and you don't have to talk to anybody at the phone company. It's really quite amazing. I have it in Maryland. Standard telephone, DSL, and cable are both wire-based technologies that are susceptible to failure just being outside. Fidium or other fiber optic competition could also help keep Comcast rates in check, and would be better access to important services like telemedicine, particularly valuable to homebound or elderly residents. We did not conduct an opportunity cost study for what it would mean if a future select board decides we ought to have fiber. The new service from Comcast on Mountain Road and Harbor Ridge roads has been good. The service being provided is what we signed up for. It's not nearly as fast as fiber would be, but compared to what we have had, it's a relief. We are not 100% certain that all of West Bath has Comcast available. There still may be uncertain pockets, but we haven't heard. We do know that slow speeds on Comcast can often be addressed by getting an upgraded modem, but many or most people do not know that if asked, Comcast will upgrade the equipment at no charge. They'll just send you a new one. Also, in the survey information, it was evident that some residents, and we don't know how many, are probably paying a premium for traditional bundled cable services from Comcast they may not need. We have several recommendations for the select board. First, we'd like to send a USPS letter with 4 items to every household and business. And in the letter, we want to note that if their Comcast service is slower than expected, that they should contact Comcast and request the latest modem, as that might resolve the issue. It's often as simple as that. We also want to know if they notify the town office if their location does not have Comcast offered at all. This information should be used in the next iteration of the franchise agreement. We suggest that everyone look at what they're paying for to decide what do they really want to pay for and how they can get it, and notify the town that we, meaning the select board and the staff, want their help to get the best service and the best deal we can. Separately, using existing grant money that's in the town, they conduct a real survey with explanation about the current grant cycle, which starts August 8th and ends 5 weeks later, to get direct feedback about interest in getting fiber optic capability using grant money. Time is of the essence on getting this survey done, and we strongly believe that we should ask the question directly. Finally, we think that the town ought to play hardball with Comcast on the next franchise agreement negotiation, include internet as a standalone service in the agreement, insist that all households and businesses with an with electricity or phone delivered on a pole have the service offered. All households and businesses must have the contracted grade of service actually delivered with 99.5% reliability, which is sort of industry standard. They're supposed to do that. All households and businesses must be offered the latest modem upgrade when it's first available throughout the life of the agreement. Establish a Comcast West Bath toll-free number for service calls. And relative to the franchise agreement, have an experienced contract review committee reviewing the franchise agreement in detail to ensure we get the most we can. We hope the select board and staff will keep all of this in mind and not take a path of least resistance into signing the Comcast again on Comcast terms. We understand that this is complex and urge you to start the planning and discussions with Comcast and Fidium now, while there's time to affect the outcome. And that is our report.
So from a survey perspective, Christine, is that grant available?
I tried to look for the opportunity between meetings tonight. I couldn't locate it right off, but I'll look tomorrow. And if I can't find it, I'll contact them and see if that planning grant is still available. But even if it's not, if the select board wants to pursue a survey by mail, we could take it from another source. We still have ARPA funds. So there are ways that we can come up with the funding for that.
Can I make a comment? So our concern is if we don't really ask them and we just assume that they don't want it for whatever reason, or they do want it for whatever reason, and we have it wrong, that 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 8 years from now, someone will say, well, why didn't you ask us? Why didn't you tell us that there was grant money available? We got this done on a relative cheap. So we think that we really ought to press ahead with this on a really rapid basis.
Things have changed in technology a lot since that last contract was signed in 2017. The world has changed quite a bit. So it seems to me that a direct mail to all the households would be a useful thing. And then, insofar as possible, you won't have people saying, well, I never saw it.
Yeah.
Which is easy to do.
Right.
This time of year, particularly a letter from the town of West Bath is probably going to get people's attention.
I don't understand that.
And we have more people in the community right now,
That are present?
so we can probably get more responses than we would at another time.
So how soon could you produce a survey?
So the committee and I talked about it earlier this afternoon. I said I'm busy this weekend, but we could get something done by the middle of next week. We'll work on the language and a cover letter that is clear and cogent so that it's clear what we're asking, why we're asking it, and give people an opportunity to answer and get it done fast. Much to my dismay, the committee volunteered that I would continue to do something until the survey was done.
They say no good deed goes
Goes
unpunished.
unpunished, yep.
Would you set a hard deadline for people to make their response?
Yeah, we'd have to, because we'll need a couple of weeks to write a grant proposal.
And would you have a response that would be like on a postcard that could be just?
Sure. Is that, sure, I would do that. Is it postage paid? Or do we want
Paid
to-
postage, you can do that.
But you can get postage paid postcards. I don't know what the cost is right now, but
Yeah, we would have to look into it.
Yeah, because you might not want to spend postage if your response rate isn't going to be that high.
right.
And people who bother to respond are going to be happy to put a stamp on, I think.
Or drop it off at town hall, either
Or
way.
just drop it off.
I mean, I think it's, I think I agree that the time is of the essence for this. And if you could, get a survey prepared and out with a request soon thereafter for return, I think it's a great idea to get the temperature of the community and see what their thoughts are.
The idea of being able to tap into fiber optics is very attractive.
So I move that we approve the survey, payment certainly, first choice would be via grant, second choice with ARPA funds. We pursue that on behalf of the committee and the task force.
Second.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for your work,
Jack
everyone.
has another meeting this evening, would it be okay if we took the agenda out of order?
So these three,
Yeah.
It's good ideas.
so we're just gonna move, switch item 2 and 3. Business item 3, planning assistant proposal, Mid-Coast Council of Governments. A proposal for planning services was provided by MCOG at the request of the town administrator. The proposal is in draft form, is subject to change based on meeting discussion. Max plans to attend the meeting on Mid-Coast Council of Governments behalf.
Should I stay back here?
All right, come on up to the front.
You're in my usual seats, that's why I'm curious. What is that?
So I guess,
So I guess I have some questions on it. I read through it. On Rider A, to make the town compliant with LD 2003, I thought we've already completed that language and we're just really ready to send it off to the attorney.
So when I initially was helping a few months ago, that was before there was a final rulemaking in place. Now there is final rulemaking, and even when, even with LD 2003, the state passed LD 1706, which is what helped delay everything, and even that made a few minor changes to LD 2003.
And the state also, with that, is offering financial support to the communities to pay for it.
Yes.
So I'm thinking
Yeah,
that
we've already
this-
applied for $10,000, and I got notice today that we would be receiving it within a few weeks.
So I'm thinking the $10,000 should come pay for this versus the town
Yes,
in its entirety.
yeah, that's the plan.
And I just want to quickly point something out. I say 65 up to 10,000, that's just to cover that. I don't plan to come anywhere close to that for most of the towns, and because I've already done a little work already in West Bath, I don't anticipate coming anywhere close to $3,000, and then the rest is more attorney fees and everything else.
Well, so I guess that's my first position on Rider A, which is great. I'm glad we have the money, and that it'll be covered and not by our taxpayers. So I guess I'm curious as to why we're looking at having someone do planning board reviews.
Because, for one, our town council, Sally, recommended it. She said that the planning board and the code enforcement officer would probably benefit from some support to lead us through the processes for a while, just to make sure that we have everything in place that we need to have in place.
And it is the same, I don't think this, the $10,000 covers this.
It does. It will help with that, yes.
Well,
I think it only covers the LD 2003 process. It doesn't cover the other elements here. Is that correct, Max?
correct. But the other thing I'll add on to that is because West Bath is a dues-paying member, you already get 16 hours of free service, which will cover that under the planning board. And if after the 16 hours you still would like this service, then we can talk about that.
Yeah, we're not expecting any additional funds from the town for this proposal.
Well, I don't think the LD legal fund covers the ordinance preparation.
Covers it, it does.
It does.
Only for the LD ordinance, not
No,
our
it-
entire ordinance
No,
process.
Right.
it will cover our ordinance
Yeah.
amendments.
Yeah, it'll cover the amendments, and because the attorney's already going to be reviewing it, it's going to be lumped into it as well. But it won't, but we already had that $2,000 agreement for the rest of the ordinance anyways.
Yeah, so I guess as the chair of the planning board, I was surprised about some of these things with like clarification of exactly the scope of these items.
These
So-
items were really for discussion purposes because Kathy asked me to expedite the discussion about planning assistance.
So these came from you.
Yeah, they were just ideas for discussion.
So a site review that requires third-party input, meaning like an engineer to check it?
No, that would be on the third party.
So what would your input be? I guess I'm just trying to figure out how this would work, because I just found out about it a couple days ago. so.
So when there is something going before the planning board for review,
Mhm.
I would take a look at it to make sure that it is compliance in the ordinance, just from an outside perspective. And again, this would be for maybe 1 or 2 meetings, up to 16 hours, and if that's, if I'm noticing any issues or looking in the process and I see something that I would like to flag, just as an outside perspective,
Mhm.
then I just say my piece on that. Or if the CEO needs some assistance with looking at it first, saying, hey, I'm not sure about this item or that item, I then take a look at it and give.
Okay, I mean, I'm not against help, I'm just trying to understand how this is supposed to be working and kind of why, because I mean, we do that already, but.
Well, you have asked the code enforcement officer for notes. I think that is something that Max can help us with.
Is he
But
gonna
I
do the
don't
site evaluations, like
under-
walk the sites? I mean, that's, I think our
The
code.
notes that I asked the code enforcement officer for were based on site visits to verify that, yes, the buildings are the same distance from the water that the applicant says, and that, yes, when he notes that something has been removed, that was okay. And I'm forgetting some of the other ones, which I don't think Max is going to be doing, so I don't know if that applies to what you're talking about.
Well, not site visits, but the word site visit had not come up before in our conversations.
Well, those were the questions that
It
weren't,
came up in the context of
available.
reviewing an application,
right, they,
which is what Max will be doing.
okay, I'm just trying to understand what this is all talking about and how any of our roles are going to change. And ask these questions before it's approved, I guess.
We've had conversations about the need for a planner, somebody who can look at overall pictures. I don't see that this is any different.
So is this supposed to become a planning position? Because I'm pretty confident that $10,000 the state's giving us isn't gonna cover that.
No, it's a consultation.
And we, under the maps, didn't we just get new maps from the state?
Yeah, I guess I was curious what those maps would be.
That was more of an optional item, but during the comp plan discussions, there was talks about updating the maps. That's something that one of our GIS members can provide if the town would like to have the land use and shoreline zone maps updated. But that's again, an optional item. That was just me throwing it in there, assuming you still did want the updated maps.
Yeah, so just a comment on that is, it's in the budget already to have that zoning map updated this year. And when we changed from the company that did it before this company, it cost us a lot of money, and we said, we're not gonna change again, we're gonna keep with these people, so that it doesn't cost us more money every time we swap from one person to another, because all the setups and that sort of thing. It's sort of, so you're just talking about updating the zoning map?
Zoning, shoreline zoning, whatever maps need to be updated.
Well, we only have one, and that's it. The other ones that we use are the beginning with habitat maps and the FEMA map, which are provided by the state and the feds, so we wouldn't need anything for that.
I think
I guess I
it
was
would be
curious
helpful
which
to have
maps.
Max's input when before we update these maps, to make sure that everything is the way it should be.
Oh, I agree, but I don't think we need more maps. I was curious as to what additional maps meant.
Unless the town specifically says we want a map to cover this or that, I just had the map saying we have a GIS person on staff who can help with creating a map that's necessary. You don't have to spend any money for maps, you can, but it's just an option that's there. If you want to update the land use ones, once the comp plan is done, or anything else really. It's just
Yeah.
there.
Christine, that one's slated to be done this year, right? Because it was in the budget?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay, so that'll be updated based on stuff. That's what I thought, okay. Just trying to
Kathy, you
understand.
asked that this be on the agenda. What did you have in mind?
Well, what I was thinking was how to, there's been a lot of new people on the planning board.
Yeah, we have 2 new people, yeah?
There's been a lot of, we have a new code enforcement officer. We have Carly, who struggles with the planning board, and the planning board struggles with her. So I thought having a planner, a third party, could help us with some of those things and point out how do we move forward, because we seem to be stuck in this pattern of nobody can do anything right.
I thought everything had been really great in the last 6 months, actually, so I'm surprised to hear that.
Well, this has been talked about for a long time, so the last 6 months this has been talked about for about a year now.
Oh, well, I just heard of it 2 days ago, so
Yeah,
that's
we
why
had-
I'm here.
Yeah, this is the first time we've done anything to actually move on it, but it's been in discussion for a while.
Yeah, it actually came up when Sally was here.
Well, and I thought 6 months ago, or back in January or whatever, when we all sat down, there were gonna be updated job descriptions and more process and all that kind of stuff, but I haven't heard anything about that. Yet that might fix this, or whatever you think is a problem, but it's been since January.
It is not unusual for towns to have somebody in a position of consulting for planning. I'm not sure what the problem is. We have a person who's experienced, we have the opportunity, we have the funding. So why wouldn't we simply go ahead and use the services of a consultant who's very familiar with what is happening in West Bath and what's likely to happen. He's been part of the discussions of people's wishes and desires for what's going to happen now. Why wouldn't we take advantage of having somebody who is not from here putting in a neutral position in a situation which has been highly conflicted since I've been on the board?
And I just have to say, that whole thing with the planning board with Mr. Crooker has been trying to talk to Sally, it's been a whole foo-bah. So some way to try to figure out, could a third-party person help us with that, where it became clear that our attorney couldn't help us? I don't know.
So I think though, Madeline, to what you're saying, I'm not opposed. I think Max is great. I was just here trying to understand what was being asked for, because half of these things I don't think are necessary. Because of the way it was written, we don't need new maps. And third-party input sounded like you needed someone to review an application. We have a professional engineer and a civil designer on the planning board, so getting a second opinion because we don't have expertise on the board didn't seem like that made sense either. That's why I'm here. It was the way that this was written, it didn't make sense to me, and so I was coming to get some information, which I think is appropriate, seeing as how whatever's decided as the chair I have to accommodate, and that's fine. And so you talk about all these problems, and I don't think that the problems that have been happening are really rooted in the planning board making problems. Yes, some are, not all of them. Not the way that you're depicting it.
So we're picking 3 things out of
Right.
a year, so
Mhm.
I think asking for some assistance is not a big deal.
I'm not disagreeing. The way that this was written, it sounded like we were putting money at something that we already have, which right now with the budget and the taxes, I think is a really bad idea. And that's why I was coming to get clarification.
And honestly, that was my initial hesitation, is I want to clarify where this money's coming from. And it's not coming from because clearly our residents, with their recent receipt of
It's not a
payments,
tax bill.
with the recent information they've received, are up in arms. And so I'm not for spending $10,000 out of our budget at this time. Now, I will also say, I've spent a lot of time with Max and the comp plan, he's fantastic. I believe, and we've been pushing for a couple of years now for our ordinance to be addressed. I think one of the issues in our ordinance, which stems to what some of this big debacle is that's going on right now, if we had had clarity in our ordinances, we probably wouldn't be in this debacle. But some of the things in there are so vague, you can't take a definitive stance one way or the other. So from that perspective, I think Max brings a significant value to our community. I just want to make sure that, truthfully, it comes down to, I want our community to know that we're trying to hold costs right now because everyone's concerned about the bill. That's a huge piece of why I brought this up.
This is not taxpayer money. I can
And
assure you. of
And
that.
that's and that's, if we are gonna be able to use 100% of the $10,000 towards this and nothing comes out of our budget, I'm all in.
And as I said, that 10,000 was just me rushing to get something so you guys have something today. We can
Yeah.
obviously amend it as possible. As I said, you also have the technical assistance, 16 free hours, so if you want to hold off on signing this, and you just tell me a start date for the planning board, we can go through what the trial run would look like.
I'm not opposed to signing it with the idea that we're gonna turn around and create a more definitive outline and services utilized. And if that money is coming as a grant, terrific,
Mhm.
not a problem. I just wanna make sure that it's clear that it's a grant, and that's,
Yeah.
And when the grant's done,
it's
the
done.
services are done. They're not
We
gonna
may
carry
not even
into
spend all
next year.
$10,000. I mean, if we do, we don't. We have, I think, we may, because our ordinance, they need some work,
If
so.
the outcome of this was we needed a full-time planner, we would look at that. I don't see that's where this is going. This is really to help us, and I think I think you could have used some support.
You think?
Yeah, and I think this way with a third-party person, I know this is one case, but maybe the whole thing around certain people excusing themselves under certain votes at certain times might, it put you in a rough spot.
You cannot make people vote a certain way.
No?
And you can't convince them otherwise that they're doing it wrong. So
Right, so I don't know if Max can
I don't
help
know
us.
as if anybody would have fixed that.
But it had that line item in there been more definitive, I don't
What
think.
line item?
I don't know if I want to even talk about
No,
Yeah.
it's,
I don't want to
Yeah,
talk
I-
about any of it,
It doesn't
because
matter.
we don't know where this is
Yeah.
going. But the determination of an ordinance was so vague that no one knew how it stood.
Right,
I guess is the best way to put it. So it can be interpreted one way over here and another way over here, and there was really no way to resolve it
right.
without conflict. So I don't know, I mean, that's where I think Max is
I
gonna
do
be
too.
significant support to the town. So I'm all for signing it tonight, but on the caveat that we're gonna give you a different guideline on how it's done.
Yeah, and I would recommend not signing this particular agreement. I would just make a motion to the effect that you would allow us to move forward in coming up with different protocols.
once this is decided, will there be a process of at what point, time-wise, because we only have 3 weeks to review things and all that kind of stuff, you're gonna come up with a process for that? So that we can all know what we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing?
Yeah, Max is nodding.
Yeah, so,
That
Well, I
would
mean,
be
he's not, I mean, we're gonna have to, if we go this route, we're gonna have to implement a digital component, because you're not here to see some of these when they're handed in hard copy.
Right.
So
Sometimes,
there's a lot that has to be resolved.
well, sometimes I'm driving through the area. I've done that with Christine a few times with the comp plan already, so.
No,
Sometimes
just,
we'll
I mean, we'll figure it out.
figure it out.
Max, we know you have another meeting if you need to go. Okay.
I move
Thank
that
you.
we authorize Christine and Max to continue discussions to flesh out a plan and a process so that we can continue to have administrative and planning consultation.
and put this back on for the next agenda.
And move that next agenda.
We can talk about it next time.
Okay, yes.
I second that, all in favor? Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Talk to you later about planning this out.
Thanks, Max.
I mean, again,
I
ice
don't
cream
know.
on the way out, Max, it's still open.
Sorry?
The ice cream's still open on the way
I
out.
think I'm gonna have to call it. I think I'm gonna have to do it for the next comp plan meeting.
So we'll go back to business item 2, purchasing and bid procedures policy review. The current purchasing policy was revised based on discussion at the July 6th meeting. The revised draft will be reviewed. A red line copy of the current policy and a clean copy of the policy with accepted revisions is provided for reference.
I move for adoption of.
I have some questions actually before we move forward.
Actually, it is appropriate, according to Robert's rules, that the motion be made before discussion. So simply for the purposes of opening discussion, I move approval of the purchasing and bid procedures as provided in the clean copy.
I second that, and we are open to discussion.
So I have a couple of questions. On page 2, where we have the information about, and I'm looking at the red line, not the finished one.
C or D
I'm on page 2, that just outlines the single-sided. So, when we're looking for, and this is in item B from 1,000 to 4,999, where we need to get price quotes, I would like proof of request shall be documented to make sure that we've actually requested quotes from people. We're not just making the assumption that we made a request for quotes.
I do not see what you're reading, Suzanne.
So
It's
on page,
actually page 1, forward to page 2, section 4.
Oh, okay.
So I added, so it says, there are at least, purchases that are at least 1,000 but less than 5,000 shall require documentation from at least 3 written and/or oral price quotes from qualified bidders have been obtained. And it says if available. And I don't want to say if available, I want to say obtained with proof of request, so that we show that we sent an email or to a bidder, so that we're not just assuming there's only one person submitting that. We want to make sure we've had at least 3 requests sent. We don't have to have acknowledgement back, but I like verification.
The reason for that wording is because sometimes there isn't more than 1 or 2 vendors,
But I want,
depending on the item.
I would like proof that we've made a request.
Well, sometimes there's not a third vendor to make a request from.
Proof of, that's okay, then show me 2. But I want to see a proof that we've made request to someone other than a single vendor. And then, so that in item, on that same page in item D, kind of the middle of the paragraph, upon approval of the bid specifications by the select board, the purchasing agent shall solicit sealed bids by advertisement or by direct mail, and it should be and by direct mail. I think we need to make sure that we're sending bids to people that are qualified to participate in bids.
So who decides who's qualified and who we should be sending those bids to?
So there's other contractors in the town, and
I know, so are we sending to every contractor in the town?
no, we can get a list of people who want to participate, but I want to make sure that other people are given the chance to participate in the bid process.
I think it would be helpful if you gave the staff and the department head some discretion about how we handle these processes. I mean, if you make this too wordy,
We're looking at purchases over $20,000. This is in the over $20,000 category. I want to make sure that every qualified contractor or individual that would like to participate is included.
How are we going to determine how many people are interested?
So you post it on the website, we run it in the newspaper,
We always do that anyway.
if we're gonna, because you have here by direct mail, so who were you gonna send them to by direct mail? It's already in here. Where's your list for that then?
The people that I'm aware of who we have proof of insurance on file.
So but my point is, let's
So
go
do
over
we
the
have
list.
a list of those people?
Yeah, let's see who they are. And, because I think, I just want the town to have a pool.
I think doing it by newspaper is the way every town does it. People read the newspapers, they know it's in the newspaper, it's their responsibility to look for them.
Then why do we even have direct mail in here? It's in red ink and red.
Then we take it
That's
out.
just what we've been doing. It's
But I think
our
we
process.
should,
We always do direct mail to the contractors who are in town.
Well, I also have a problem with direct mail, because you're picking and choosing. So I say you go by the newspaper, we let them, they know where to look for them in the newspaper. So I just say we do advertisement and strike out the direct mail.
I think we should do the direct mail.
I
It's
know
in there.
every vendor, I know, I'm sure Perry knows where to look, I'm sure Hill knows where to look, I'm sure David.
You could also just post it on the town's website as well.
Yeah.
We always do that.
Oh. That's what I mean, just to
Yeah.
clarify.
You could actually put it on the bulletin board here. Darlene?
Yeah, the state with contracting had a policy, and if we had a weird, not a weird project, but a very specific project, like your IT stuff or something, then they don't always, just to make sure you got at least 3 people, we would go and look through the phone book, or have people that we've worked with before, or talk to other project managers and send to those specifically, but not general contracting. If it was something very specific, that's what we would use to do.
I just wanna make
And
sure that
you
more
still
people
put it-
are given the
You
opportunity.
still put it out, and it was still on the state website, but if it was something small and specific, you
Yeah,
know,
everybody knows the process.
like your security
Everybody knows,
system, your, something like that, but not like a building project or a paving project or anything like that.
I'm
just
sure
something
Crooked
that's-
doesn't wait for people to mail him
No,
opportunities for jobs.
no. But we found that not doing that for those little niche things, you would only get one person, if anyone.
So this is just for,
Non-public works, is that what you're after?
yes.
Right, so that would maybe be that sort of situation.
Right.
And it all sort of depended, I mean, you still put it on the website, you still put it in the paper.
Right.
But like our
But
window bid,
You may or may not get many people depending on what it is,
Right.
so.
so we're getting ready to look at a window bid.
Mhm.
There's plenty of reliable window suppliers that we,
I don't think we should be mailing them to them. I think there's a process that we do. Now we're gonna ask the town to take more time, look up. We have a process, I think it works. Well, that's usually what the contractors do. They call one another and say, hey, do you know the town's advertising? Hey, do you know Perry's advertising? Yeah, they just do that. A lot of them help each other out. So,
it says, it already has a policy for direct mail, and now we don't have to do that, I guess. I'm just trying to follow what was written and make sure that we're,
Well, in the proposed bid, it does say direct mail, we could strike that.
I think we should.
I don't.
Well, we'll decide on the changes and we'll figure it out.
I see.
Any other ones, Susan?
I do, under the section 12, for change orders. The one caveat I'd like to add to that, because where the road commissioner and purchasing agent can approve the change orders, and presumably they are not the road commissioner is not the contractor on the change order. He should not be approving his own change orders.
I agree with that.
And then within 13, we've got the change orders coming from the engineer. I would like an explanation as to why we're now having a change on the engineer plan. I would like the engineer, when they make a request for
Yeah,
change
they
order,
always provide that.
what I'd like in writing here, that they will give us an explanation as to why there's a change order different from their plan.
That's always been done.
But it's not required. If
No, that's not what's always been done. The Bull Rock change order just says, the engineer, I approve this change. No
So-
reason given for the change.
So I want any change order, especially from an engineer plan, which is
It
gonna be
did say-
significant.
It did say unsuitable soils on the change order, and the engineer merely approved it. It was a simple one-line change order.
Because my theory is that on an engineer plan, it's a significant dollar amount, because we've had an engineer do it. And I'd like to know why we wavered. I'm not saying you don't have changes, I just wanna know why there was a change after the fact that they didn't see in their initial plan before it's approved.
So you're proposing that it be,
So in section 12, I'm proposing that, that we add a caveat to the road commissioner, presuming they are not the contractor submitting the change order. That would default directly to the purchasing agent only then. And then, under the engineered section, I want, it's right, that last sentence there, that contract manager firm may be approved by the purchasing agent, but with the necessary language as to why the change order is
So
needed.
Suzanne, to make this, if the road, it says we must be approved by the purchasing agent and
Or the road commissioner, and I said presuming that they are not the contractor.
I heard that, but who would be the second person to,
No, the purchasing agent it would default directly to the purchasing
so
agent.
directly to us?
No, Christine.
Okay.
So if the road commissioner
Is requesting a change order
is the contractor,
and has a change order, he may not approve the change order, it must go to the purchasing agent.
all right, so for purposes of being able to read it, if the road commissioner is the contractor, change orders must be
Approved by the purchasing
the
agent,
purchasing agent.
period.
Darlene?
Two things, why wouldn't you add a select person also as the second?
It's only $5,000, and to hold this stuff up
Oh, okay.
probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
And then, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, I don't have it, but one thing that I've noticed in the past is a lack of one-year warranties on anything that's done.
That is in here.
So that is it in there that
It is in
there
here.
are one-year warranties
There's
on
a
everything?
one-year warranty, I'll find exactly where it is.
Okay,
Hold on, I read that.
because you've got culverts that sink and pavement that cracks.
It was a one-year warranty, but hold on, I gotta
When
find
there's
where
a
that.
leak and.
Can we go back to section 12 before we go
Sure.
into that? So the language that you're asking to be added
For the contractor, or for the engineer.
for change orders of any value that are deemed appropriate by a contracted engineering firm may be approved by the purchasing agent provided that
The reason for the change order is fully
an
explained.
explanation is given
As to why we've wavered from the engineer plan.
as to the reason for the change.
Are you requiring itemized costs for the change order also, or is it just lump sum? Because they can really inflate things. Because I think the state, any change order through the state has to be cost of materials and cost of labor, and then like a 10% overhead increase. Whereas if they just throw a $6,000 number on it, you don't know if it was really costing them $2,000 or.
So I have no problem with the changes she's talking about, except I don't see any reason to change B and D.
To change which,
D, we're gonna strike out
directly.
direct mail. But I didn't see any reason to change B.
I think we should have a proof of request.
Oh, what?
A proof of request made to
You
other,
can think that, I know, it's just my opinion, your opinion.
And I don't think it's necessary either. I think that somehow assumes that our employees are cheating us, and I just don't believe that's true.
it has nothing to do with the employees cheating us, it's not how that was presented.
Then if we're talking about, back to section 12, change orders, if we want to adopt Darlene's suggestion, then explanation and an invoice,
Cost analysis should be included with all change orders.
Again, we're talking $5,000.
with an invoice, an explanation
How
and an
much
invoice.
itemization can you have on $5,000?
Exactly.
That's not gonna be much.
That's all we're talking about, so maybe just an explanation.
I mean, on the change orders that we bring to the select board, they're certainly gonna have more detail.
Right.
Or we can request that they have more detail.
Now, when you get over here, and you're talking about something that's been engineered, yes, we need
Well, an explanation
an explanation and
and cost analysis.
absolutely. Because hopefully they've done it correctly to begin
That's
with.
why we paid him to be an engineer.
Different levels.
Well, we had this situation, and it was more than $5,000, but we had this situation with the with the swamp, that for whatever reason, the boring that was done missed the clay that caused the equipment to start going into the brook. So those things happen.
But again, just the explanation, so
So
when
you
people
want-
ask, we don't.
So we not put in the invoice?
I don't think for the 5,000, I think
Okay.
I definitely think for anything that's engineered.
But that's at a $5,000, the change order is a $5,000 price point, even with an engineer.
Right. But I
So-
don't think $5,000 is a culvert, I don't know.
You can have more than one change order on a project, and all of a sudden it went from
Well,
20 to 60.
Yeah, but
then we'll get an explanation.
it's $5,000, if they go over the 5, they've gotta give us per change order.
But it's per change. It's,
But if they're only saying 5,000, if they're spending more than 5,000, they've gotta get our permission.
Right.
They can't go over that $5,000
Right.
without an explanation, without cost, without an invoice, because.
It can always be $49.97 when it really costs them $1,230 now.
That's true.
That's
But
why we
this is
always
just-
checked it.
Well, we'd be checking it when they submit their bill.
Right, I'm just talking about with the state. A
Oh,
change order had to come through and it had to be exactly, and they used to set me down and I'd have to go check every little item and make sure that that was an appropriate sort of, none of those $300
Right.
ashtrays sort of thing. So you catch a lot.
so Christine, on page 4, section 7,
Of which
B,
document?
the red line,
Section 70.
7B. So it talks about, what Darlene brought up, it's the 1-year warranty. That
We don't have the same pages here,
In the red line,
so it's.
page 4, I'm looking at the page number at the bottom. So that has the 1-year warranty date. Does that flow through to Public Works? And if not, it should. We need to have that, a warranty in Public Works, because we broke Public Works off to section 12
Mhm.
and 11.
Yeah, I can clarify that.
So that needs to be, warranty on all Public Works needs to be, follow that same verbiage. So just add that into section 12.
Any more discussion?
No, I think I've covered all that questions.
I'll make some changes and bring it back to the next meeting.
Thank you.
So we should defeat the motion.
Yeah.
I think we should table it.
So,
All in favor? Item 4, the county is close to being approved by the State Division of Engineering on the application for driveway permit to access the proposed Saginaw County 911 communication and telecommunication facility in West Bath from the DOT existing rest area on Route 1 adjacent to the proposed facility. The permit requires that the property owner's signature. The town attorney confirmed that the select board has the authority to sign the permit on the town's behalf.
So I just want to make sure before we sign this that we have, we've balanced the solar plan against this so that we know what road's going through what, because we've leased land. And I want to make sure that it jives.
So this is the rest area on Route 1.
But it's coming in, yes, it starts there, but it comes all the way in.
So all we're doing is saying they can
Apply.
apply. We're not saying anybody, Darling.
I get what you're saying, but I thought that since the tower wanted to be in the middle of where the solar field was, that this was a dead thing.
no, they're
No.
continuing the negotiations.
They're working with each other.
So they still can't do anything that's not allowed by us. This does not give them permission for that. They're just moving ahead, trying to work together
Okay.
and figure out, they're still gonna have to come before the planning board and meet all your requirements.
So is it, my question is, does this access point bisect their leased land at any point? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The only access that the DOT can give is to go through what the DOT has right of way for. So that's all.
They're coming up from State Road all the way through.
No,
they're not.
They're coming from Old Route
Highway.
1.
Right, right?
On the highway.
And where, so this is this in
No.
the solar field? This is Route
Solar
1.
field should be.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Have we bisected the solar lease area in this diagram?
They're coming from the top of Witchburn Hill on Route 1, where the rest area is.
I know where they're entering. My question is where, it doesn't make sense, and I'm concerned that this isn't jiving with the lease that we've given.
No, look at this. It's not making sense. Shouldn't the rest area come right out?
This is the rest area that I gave.
Yeah, I know it is.
But this is,
Making sense. So, if
Yeah,
the
so
rest
this
area
is
is
the rest
way
area
here,
here,
and the
yeah.
solar's way down here?
that's my, I feel like we're bisecting this
So when the
lease.
solar was here, the problem is, this is wet, and so they were gonna be here.
And now the road is going through, it appears
And
it's
I don't-
going through the lease land, and I don't
I
know.
have that map at home, but I don't have it here, but they were, yeah, so they were talking about being here, cause it's at the top, and that this is steep. I remember this side is steep, this is that marsh over
So
in
my
here,
question
so.
to you, why does this make sense for them to even need this if they're gonna,
Because that road's not gonna be cut in for 2 years.
oh, I see, okay.
Cheaper.
It was, they were, the solar farm has not decided yet where they.
Right, so,
So,
and the solar farm, I think if I remember that meeting, the solar farm said that the land that was good for them is the same land that is good
Right.
for the tower.
This is the solar lease, I had Christine print it out for
Oh,
today.
okay.
So I'm trying to figure
You
out
can kind
where
of, so
does,
this is, so this right here, see that right there, that's the,
that's this.
that's, where's your, this one? So, if you line it up, sorry, if you line it up like this, you see right there, that like darker area, that's this. So, and then this jog is that jog, so basically, can I see your present? Or, oh, so if this jog is that jog, then this tower is going right there.
That's why it's.
That's why I think
And
they were
then the road, if I'm, cause it kinda comes in a ways, right? And then it
Yeah.
takes a turn and it comes across like this. So I think that's about what this is.
That's my point.
I know, but
So
it's
it's-
not, Suzanne, to give them to permission to go ahead, and then the planning board makes all those other, because really.
It's not the planning board, we leased this, we've leased this, and now we're letting them come through it.
No, we're not
No.
letting them do anything.
This drawing is depicting them coming through a lease that we've approved.
This is just a driveway permit, period,
right, and they
nothing
need,
else.
they need DOT permission because they need to use the rest area, and that's all that's all.
But their drawing is showing this coming through.
And we can move approval, provided that continuing negotiations between the proposed solar farm
Yeah, that's the same
and
thing.
the county
It's
continues.
just,
Here's your drag.
so yeah, so see, it's the same thing, they're just not showing you this. So like, see, it's the same deal, it's just in a different scale.
So all they're trying to do is get permission to access that, so by signing it, it's just letting them start the process, but they still, our first, we gave that to the solar.
We've leased it already.
Right,
We
so.
can't take it back. We can amend it, we can amend the lease.
No, we
can't.
really can't, they can, I guess.
We could, yes.
Well, we would have to be involved in it.
Right, but I mean, if they don't want to, they don't have to.
Right, and that was clear from the meeting that we had with both parties.
Well,
And
but it,
they agreed to continue to negotiate.
was,
Yeah,
what was,
and
what was
because
it?
they've done this, it's clear that they are talking with each other.
They are progressive. So if, in order to keep both projects moving, both of which are of benefit, if we give approval for this
So if you read
in
this,
concert with the solar panel, with the agreement of the solar panel people, I don't see what the problem
So
is.
what they're asking for, which isn't a law, extending existing road to rear abreast area by approximately 450 feet.
So if that's in their DOT permit, and it turns out that they cannot go to that spot and they move their spot, they'll have to get a new DOT permit. So, but you may be doing them a disservice
By
at this
approving
point,
this.
if they aren't aware of that.
Why wouldn't they be aware of it?
Stranger things have happened.
This,
I'm just saying that it's clear that we're granting access to an area that we've leased to someone else.
I think if we can get access, that's number one, because they usually don't do it.
right,
Yeah, they need to determine, the county needs to determine whether or not they can get access.
Because it's very unusual. This is just a permit, they may say, no way.
right. So I move that the application be approved, pending continued discussion with the solar farm people.
Can you get an email from them saying, hey, are you both, have they both seen this, Christine?
I don't know that they've all seen it.
I second the motion. This is just a permit. This may help us get further along the way, because if they say no, then they're gonna have to look for another
Yeah, the
place.
county's gonna have to look for another location, and that's really what they're after. is
So this
one.
will just firm up our decision whether it's even viable.
Right.
So, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm not opposed to it, I'm opposed to, I have questions about it. It's just, I don't know what, I'm concerned that we've double dipped on a leased area, I guess is the best way to put it.
Perhaps you should sign that as the chair.
You can get a few signatures on there, just write on there.
Business item 5, conflict waiver, name Gravel and/or West Bath Parking LLC. I am more confused on this than I was before, if that's even possible.
So basically,
Crooker's had said fine, he's okay with us, we just need to say fine, we're okay with him.
Yeah, Crooker is signed,
Do you want some too?
No, I do not.
Crooker signed the conflict waiver, which basically states that Jensen Baird can work with our appeals board
Okay.
during the appeals process. Jensen Baird will not be representing the planning board. They will be representing our appeals board.
right.
Darlene?
The appeal didn't come from Jensen Baird. The paperwork did not come from Jensen Baird.
Well, of course it didn't. Wait, I don't understand what you're saying.
I thought that the lawyer had moved to Jensen Baird, so that was the problem, is that the appeal was coming from Jensen Baird.
Yes, but,
It's on a different letterhead than that, so, and it's a different
yeah,
lawyer.
Pierce Atwood.
Yeah.
And that's why Crooker signed the conflict waiver, is because he decided to work with Pierce Atwood rather
don't
than
have a
working with
conflict.
Jensen Baird.
Right, so there's
So
no.
because there is no
Now,
conflict,
before the appeals.
he said,
We don't
yes,
have a
fine, Jensen
Is it
Baird
different,
can
so
work
why
with
is
the
it
town.
signed?
It's the same office.
Okay. No,
It's the same office, right?
no,
Paris? No?
I missed that one.
Is Paris the same office as,
no.
no, it's a different lawyer?
So now we don't have a conflict.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but because they still have a relationship with Crooker, their professional standards require them to have a conflict waiver signed.
But I
So,
think what Suzanne's trying to say is, well, they've already applied to the appeals board, right?
Yes.
So it's done. It's going to the appeals.
No, right, I think that is the process, but my point is that we no longer have a conflict,
Right.
because he's with a different law firm.
well, but if the code for the attorneys say that it has to be clarified, then we have to clarify it.
I'm not opposed to signing, but I just don't think we have a conflict anymore. They're not using the same law firm.
Right, but what difference does it make whether we have a conflict now or not?
Because we're signing a conflict waiver for it.
The attorney's professional standards require them to check with the client to make sure it's okay that a firm that has formerly or currently represented them can represent another party.
He signed it. We didn't
This is
sign it.
required.
No, we have to sign back, we have to sign our waiver back.
So you won't be signing anything, as I noted in the report. Sally is just requesting a return email saying that the town is okay.
I move the waiver of the conflict of interest, however it is that we need to say that. So,
That would give Christine permission
to send
An email to
an
Sally.
email authorizing Jen Zivier to represent the town and the Board of Appeals matter.
I'll second that.
all in favor.
And then next week, when Carly's back, Carly and Sally will set up the appeals board meeting.
That was my question, if that was the last thing that was holding up the setting of the date of the appeals meeting.
Yes.
Business item 6, window replacement, request for quote. The request for bids will be advertised next week for an August 18th bid opening. The advertising request quotes and bid specification for window replacements are attached.
And this is all out of ARPA money, correct? 100%.
The window replacement was not part of, was it part of, yes, I'm getting confused. Yes, it was. Replacement windows, we set aside $10,000 for that. From ARPA.
So I move that we authorize the request for proposals as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
And I'm intending to do the same for painting for upstairs, so I would basically use the same format and advertise that as well. And then as funds allow, we can continue what we started pre-COVID
Can you,
with the painting.
at the next meeting, tell us where we stand with our ARPA money remaining?
Yeah, in round figures, it's around $30,000 that.
So we said 38,
$30,000 that we haven't appropriated yet.
30.
Yeah.
I just went, okay.
I think it's a little bit upwards of that.
Okay, town administrators report.
Okay, the Androscoggin to Kennebec Transportation Alternatives Program grant application was sent out. Considerable effort was taken by the towns of Brunswick and Bath in applying for this grant with the town of West Bath, so I thank them for that. It took a lot of effort, and will be informed in January of 2024 whether or not we're successful for the engineering and right-of-way work that would be part of that trail plan. So the town of West Bath contributed a total of $10,000, $5,000 that you approved at the last meeting, and then an additional $5,000 that will be provided by Kennebec Estuary Land Trust through the Almina B. Sewell Foundation. So I just wanted to update you on that.
Colleen, do you have a question?
Yeah, where's the path of the trail going?
Everywhere.
Yeah, along Route 1.
Along the highway, Route 1?
No, New Meadows, the little New Meadows Bridge there by the boat place.
How is it gonna get from Bath to Brunswick?
Well, that's why Maine DOT is involved and they will study that. They have a couple of different paths that they need to study. One will require a bridge. So we'll see where we end up. I met with Jim Williams and Pete Francisco last week about the Harbors and Waterways Committee. And they're hoping that the select board would consider appointing committee members again to start the committee up. They also wanted to talk about aquaculture, and they are requesting that the town require that aquaculture leases, that of course we receive from the state, that there's an opportunity for people in the town of West Bath to review it before the harbor master signs off on it.
We,
I said I would bring their concerns to the board.
we do not have authority to tell the Department of Marine Resources what their process will be. The Department of Marine Resources tells us what their process will be. I don't see that we have a leg to stand on telling them what their process can be, but of course, you could write a letter and tell DMR that we would like to change the process.
So is there concern that they want to be heard on the placement? What are they
Yeah,
looking to?
they want more opportunity to be heard, is what I got from that conversation.
Don't you have that opportunity when they post the new license, that you can't, don't you send in
Yes,
concerns at that time?
yes. What they need to do is get on the DMR mailing list, and then they can find out anywhere in the state where both a limited or a standard lease is being offered.
I think what they're getting at is that they don't want
They don't want
our harbor master to sign off on anything
Right.
before they
want-
have an opportunity to
They want them
weigh in
to,
on it.
But even if they weigh in on it, we can't, I don't know.
the harbor master has the authority to sign off on those.
They need to, if they're that concerned, they need to follow the process and submit their concern at the time, by the time requested.
Mhm. Their argument is that Joe signs off on it before that time period is up.
So maybe we just put a standard that it doesn't, it's not signed until the deadline. I mean, if that's the case, he shouldn't be signing it until the deadline's met.
David?
Well, the state is a process and the harbor master is involved in that process. But if they want, they can ask Carly to be notified when the application in West
Oh,
Bath.
they're notified.
Well, that should be enough.
Right.
If our harbor master's signing off on it before the deadline, we shouldn't be, to allow for voices to be heard. It should be at the end of the hearing.
It goes through a public hearing as well.
For a standard, doesn't,
Yeah.
not for an LPA.
No, for a standard lease, they have hearings and everything else.
I'm just saying we shouldn't sign off until we've met the expiration of comment. If there's,
The harbor master's signature is one consideration. It's not the only consideration.
but why are we advance signing if there's still time in the
So
process
does he have to sign it in order for the process to continue?
Yeah.
to complete? Not to continue, does it complete?
No, to continue.
The comments can be, Joe signing it, or any harbor master signing it, does not mean that DMR is going to grant it. It means that Joe thinks that there's room enough for navigation in the process, in the area of the proposal. That's all it means. And Joe's signature does not mean
Okay.
that something is going to happen. DMR has the final authority, and DMR has the authority of the King of England.
And that's true even where navigation is concerned.
Absolutely.
But if there's, my point is, if there's a timeline for concern to state your grievance, you probably shouldn't be signing that until after
And
that
maybe the
timeline.
first thing we need to do is find out the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
just,
just,
I'm not opposed to this,
I'm
but I
talking about the
think
process.
procedurally we need to.
We've been through this.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we had the process, we could put it on the website or
Yeah.
something.
Just show that we're following procedure.
And they know what the process is. We
I'm sure
have been
they
through
do.
this, they have been at workshops, they have been told very specifically what the process is.
The fact that Joe signs that, it's just part of the process. It doesn't mean there's a deadline like that. They can still talk to DMR and question it. Joe does not drive this, he's just part of the
How many
process.
times have we had DMR down here discussing this with these guys?
At least 3 that I know of. We had a very big workshop, and they were present at that 3 or 4 years ago. they were told what the process is and how it is, and the town of West Bath has very, very little to say legally about this. Joe or any other harbor master in the state, their signature is part of the process, it is not approval. So that is the way that it is. These people have been traditionally opposed to aquaculture, and my suspicion is that perhaps they wish to keep aquaculture from expanding in the town, and I don't believe that the select board has any business stopping businesses. DMR has control over any place where the water doesn't go out, and DMR will maintain that no matter what kind of processes the town of West Bath tries to put into place. And that's just the way that it is. That's the way of the world. Joe's signature, any harbor master's signature is not approval. It is part of the process.
So they're just getting confirmation that he looked at it. Is that
That's
basically
what it is, and that according to his view, there is room enough to maintain navigation, and it doesn't interfere with fishing, fouling, and whatever is the rest of the thing. I think it's navigation, fishing, and fouling. So he fulfills his responsibility, and DMR fulfills theirs. Now, we may have questions about DMR's decisions, but that's a whole different discussion, and we have, as citizens and as town, very little to say about that.
Anything else from the county?
Yes, one more item, heat pumps.
I'm in favor.
I contacted Dave's World to get put on the list for heat pump installation. And of course, they had to update the quote since it's been a while. He let me know, and based on a conversation that I had last year with Efficiency Maine about the incentives, the system that we want to have installed does not qualify for Efficiency Maine incentives. And there's no real clear information about why. But basically, because we want 4 indoor heads on 1 outside unit, they will not provide an incentive for that.
So what's another alternative that we would qualify for?
So, based on the updated quote, what we would like to do is go with the same system that we were quoted on. Since last year, the cost of the system went up about $1,000. So.
What was the incentive we were potentially getting?
The incentive that they quoted us on was $1,250.
So we're at a delta of 2,200 really.
Yeah, and then when they quoted us on the original system, when they originally quoted us, they didn't give us the correct dollar amount for the service plan. Last year, we were told it was $1,800. That was not correct. The service plan is actually $5,100.
Oh.
So his question to me is, do you really want the service plan? I personally think we have to have a service plan. I think it protects us.
Is that $5,100 a year?
Yes.
I'm thinking if it's a year, that's exceptionally expensive. What is the total cost of this proposal?
$22,944.
So we're gonna have a $5,000 annual fee for a service plan for something that costs $22,000.
So if he quoted 1,800 on paper, why are you not holding him to that?
It's because we only had 30 days.
Oh. So
Perhaps we
quote-
should look at another contractor, just so here's the thing, in our purchasing policy, this requires it to go to bid.
Well, it did, and the Energy Committee chose a vendor. That's why we didn't put it out to bid again.
But our purchasing policy now states that,
Yeah, I know. I didn't know if we were going off the original.
wait, so much has changed, I think we need to go to bid on this.
Okay.
There's
I mean, that's fine
significant
if
changes.
that's what you want to do.
Yes, Donna?
Is there an issue with having a system that would actually qualify for efficiency main?
Not necessarily. What Dave's World suggested, if we wanted the rebate, which would be $3,000, it's a $3,000 incentive. It would have, we would have 2 outdoor units, each servicing 2 indoor heads.
And I guess why is that a bad thing?
Well, the cost would be even higher.
I think we need to go to bid on this and have some other people.
It sounds like they've drastically changed their numbers.
Yeah.
I don't feel
So
comfortable.
They have. I'm fine
So-
going out to bid
So I
if
think
that's
at
what you want
this point in
to do.
time, the town will certainly go to bid because that's a totally different number.
It's,
Every which
There's
way.
a lot more people doing,
Yeah.
these heat pumps.
Yeah.
and it's our purchasing policy.
What I would do is just send it out to the companies that
They've already,
provided us quotes the
They've
first
already-
time. Does that make sense?
yes.
Well, you would also advertise it?
I
I
think
don't
we
know,
should have,
that's what I'm asking.
I would advertise it on the website.
I think so many more people have gotten into this than a year ago. You see the signs everywhere right now.
Mhm.
So I think we should put it out to bid, advertise it on the website. And
You think for the same system?
Let
I
them
think
tell
they
us.
should design it.
Yeah, I do, I think they should do it.
Okay.
I
Let
think
them
they should.
design it. What they think would work, and at the same time, each bid will probably tell us if it's efficiency main qualified.
Okay.
And again, this is ARPA money, I believe, right?
Yes.
Just clarifying.
Didn't you say you only have like $30,000 of ARPA money left?
10 for the windows.
No,
and
this
60.
is, this was already committed.
This is previously voted on.
Okay, because Max was $10,000 of ARPA money.
No, he's not,
No,
he
that's
doesn't,
not ARPA.
that's not ARPA.
Different
All right,
The windows were 10.
I stand down, I just have a question.
But the windows and the heat pumps were part of this before, and they're already funded by our money.
So that doesn't
No,
count
this is-
towards
this is-
30,000 left.
This is eating up to 30,000.
No,
No, it's not.
Possibly.
Yes, it is.
The heat pumps possible.
Well, we've already approved,
Well, an additional amount.
Yeah,
It
we
would
already
be the whole
approved.
thing.
like
What did we
18,000.
allocate from ARPA money for that?
18,000.
so it won't take.
Just saying.
So how's that?
This is ARPA money.
Well, it's also going to,
I think a $5,000 annual contract's nuts.
it also is going to mean that
Before you even buy the units.
Wow.
the heat is there, the air conditioning is there. It'll be a much better system.
Darlene, are you getting rid of the other heat source?
No.
Okay, because heat pumps in the cold of the winter do not work.
So that you have a backup system.
Right,
It's a
so I'm just
supplemental.
making sure that you were good, because I didn't realize that until someone told me that the other day, they have to like turn the heat pump off and things, around Thanksgiving. Like, well,
No,
what's the
no,
whole
no.
point of that? So you
20
don't,
degrees.
It's usually like 15 degrees, 20 degrees when they stop the
It's
unit.
only a few days a year.
That is 15?
That's what
By
it
the
is.
way,
And the systems are different numbers.
2 days a week.
Okay.
Now, before we leave this topic, I just want to make sure that you're not interested in having a heat pump installed down here.
oh, let's have to take a look at it, because it would be very nice.
But we hardly use it.
I know, I think it's always pretty comfortable down here.
I
But I've had a few other people say, you know, are we gonna get a heat pump downstairs?
I think people need to put clothes on, take clothes on.
Within reason.
layers is what you meant, right?
Dress in layers.
I don't know, we don't use this room enough. I mean, they could include it in the quote as an add-on item if we
Yeah,
choose
they
to
were
pursue
gonna do
it.
it real
If we're
cheap.
gonna have people looking at the system, let's have them look at this.
Okay.
and-
As a separate line item for down here.
As a separate system.
I'm not for it, makes sense, or someone really, but,
And I suggest to have them spell out what the service contract costs per year,
Yes.
And
yeah.
or 5,000 for 10 years.
And what does it include?
Because in 4 years, we get all brand new units, not have
Is that-
service contracts.
And take care of the interior
For
system.
10 years.
Mhm. Okay, that's all I had.
Do we need to discuss future agenda items?
I think we.
Jay got quite a few. Okay, business items, Board of Assessors, personal property tax abatements.
Okay, so do we need to take these all at once, or can we take them all at once? Because
Is this in here?
Yeah.
I don't think I have it.
Yeah, you have it. Might be in the bag.
Okay, correspondent, account status.
Is between the correspondence.
Oh, here it is, item
I saw
one.
that
Item one.
item.
So Julie very kindly provided all of those
There's nothing.
old due, and these are all ones that she selected as we authorized her to do, as being unattainable, uncollectible, and
What she would like for the auditors is if the board would sign, each of you sign down at the bottom of each one.
each one.
So, what is our process moving forward, so that we're not doing this every year?
Our process moving forward is to account for personal property each year by April 1st. The office will be following up on that. Collect from the accounts that are legitimate. File UCCs on unpaid property tax, personal property tax. Our process will change.
And that's what we agreed on.
Yeah, and that's why
That's what
We're clearing the deck for a
clearing
new
the
process,
deck
but I
and
want to,
making it possible for us to start from a good chunky mark.
So did we get a total?
I don't see a total on here either.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, we didn't do a total. If I had my phone, I'd add them up real quick, but I don't.
I can do it. You can start signing off.
Yeah, the total is fine, but it really doesn't matter what the total is, these are uncollectible accounts.
I move that we declare these uncollectible and proceed as we discussed last meeting.
Do you want us to each sign a packet, or should we all sign one packet?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
This will be a huge
Yes, it's a lot. Let's
mess.
see, this is one at a time. Seems this couple is gonna be like a Christmas present early.
Some of them are dead.
Well, they won't be getting a Christmas present,
No.
as far as we know. We should have music or something for the people who watch these videos.
If I am totaling every total column, it's $59,414.16 that we just wrote off.
We won't do that again.
That's a lot of lien interest and costs. Some of the original tax bills were not very significant.
Right. I think, there's a lesson to be learned in one of those particular ones about, tips. Town was taken advantage of.
I don't understand what you mean, tips.
Tax incentive, whatever it's called.
Tax increment financing.
Yes, that's what it is.
Tips. I don't,
Tip.
we've had tips in town before.